If you want an adventure, you could climb a mountain! Or ride dune buggies through the desert! Or you could just head to your neighborhood Zaxby's. Introducing the Smokehouse Cheddar Barbecue and Southwest Chipotle Filet Sandwich Meals. They're brand new and they'll take your taste buds to wild and exciting new places. Both feature our famous hand-breaded chicken, and they're both available for a limited time. Only at your neighborhood Zaxby's. And don't miss Jumanji: The Next Level, only in theaters.
From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan Hajavandi. He is Corey Clark. We work for Warchant.com. If you're not a member of the Ultimate Seminole Sports Source, use a promo code FSU New Era. That'll get you 50% off an annual membership. That, again, for first-time subscribers. Join the tribe. It's fun. The message boards are just an absolute sort of epicenter of just joy and overall good positivity and everything that's good in this world. You can find on the Tribal Council, as well as Corey's great work, Irish O'Fell's, Michael Langston's recruiting updates, and Gene Williams manning the phones, trying to get us the latest nuggets on the coaching search. But before we get to that, shout out to Drew Singletary on the Twitter machine. Odell with the win. Zaxby's for the win. 100 emoji. Fire emoji. Looks like he treated himself Sunday.
Treat yourself
To a smokehouse barbecue cheddar sandwich meal from Zaxby's. Indescribably good.
All right, good.
I think he might have even gone for the extra barbecue sauce. Looks a little bit more than what I had. The onion rings look great too. Hope you enjoyed it, Drew. Thanks for the shout out. We have winners on the over under. There was a push, Corey. We had a push. What was the push on? Oh yeah, the penalties. 7 penalties. There was actually 7 penalties in the game, so we had to push.
Ooh, all right, okay.
Everybody got 5 out of 6 correct, but tiebreaker is who puts their picks in first. So Get Down Black and 331 Nole got their picks in before the other guys, which are Mo_Nole77, Seminoles 1087, and Eboon 10. You're all tagged in a post on the Tribal Council. Direct message me, email me your physical mailing address so I can send you the coupons for the free food. And Get Down Black and 331 Nole. You get the T-shirt with our faces on it. Second to last one. Season's winding down. Corey, all right, let's go talk about you want to talk about the game, or do you want to talk about the coaching uncertainty?
I mean,
pick.
What do you want to talk about that game? Is there anything that caught your eye?
No, but what caught my eye was the message boards afterwards. Like, we were under siege by restless natives.
Okay, about what? What exactly?
We didn't ask Odell any tough questions. We're in on the fix. We're setting things up. We're not challenging Odell. We're not asking tough questions. We didn't ask him anything X's and O's about the game because we're honks for Odell. We want to set him up as the head coach.
X's and O's about the 49-12 win over the FCS team, the paycheck team.
The FCS team from a conference that hasn't defeated an FBS team since 1985. Yeah. Why didn't we ask about the defense surrendering a lot of yards in the fourth quarter or something like that?
Well, just yards in general. I mean, the defense isn't any good. Like,
defense is so bad.
We understand that, right? Like, the defense is not – they weren't good when they had Marvin Wilson, who's a top 2-round pick. Now they don't have Marvin Wilson. They don't have Josh Kando. Yeah, man, they're not any good. What do you want to ask Odell about that?
Why didn't he fire Harlan? Should he have fired Harlan? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
It's great.
I think there's coaching a man down. Well, I guess you're not coaching a man down. You got Levitt to fill Willie's spot. But, yeah, man, they're not any good. There was literally I was sitting in that press conference. I'm glad you brought that up because I was sitting in that press conference. It reminded me of the Louisiana Monroe game. I think I wrote my whole column about I didn't even have any questions to ask. Yeah. There's nothing you can say right now that makes me feel any better or worse about this program. That was me talking to Willie Taggart after that Louisiana Monroe win, quote unquote. But the same thing after that. What are you supposed to ask about it? Like, hey man, that was Laburn got some carries, right? How about Sheffield getting in there? Like, what are you going to ask? Right. Nothing. Great, you gave up. How about your red zone defense, Odell? Who gives a flip, man? How they punted less against you than they did any team they've played this year. Like Mississippi Valley State forced them to like 6 punts, right?
I think so. That's what we found.
They punted 3 or 4 times in that game. This defense is just not good, and there's really nothing that can be asked about it.
5 punts.
Okay, well, they had 3 there. I think they punted their last 2 possessions. But, yeah, man, there's nothing to ask X's and O's wise. What could you possibly have garnered from that game other than Tamori and Terry's really fast?
Well, that's the thing. It's great because there's differing degrees of responses to that sort of stuff. You've got Gene, who's good in the middle. Gene's in the middle, kind of defends his guys, but also realizes they're paying customers. You got to let them vent or whatever, and it's like, hey. Then you have Ira, who's just absolutely over the top diplomat. Hey, man, just want to let you know what I'm trying to explain to you what I was thinking. Is that what you're saying?
Different. You're on a different branch.
Yeah, listen, we have a small meeting, and then I'm the one that just wants to be like, can we just napalm them? It's $100. I mean, take it out of my paycheck, Gene. It's absurd. Yeah, again, bizarre win, ugliest 5-touchdown win maybe in program history. Not a lot to feel good about, but then somebody made, I thought, a good comment that kind of made me. I'm not out for blood after that game. I mean, you won the game, which was important. You get bowl eligible, which is even more important. But I do wonder how much offensively you're maybe trying to accomplish because you do have a pretty big game coming up here in 2 weeks. So
yeah,
no need to really throw anything new or anything really all that dynamic at that opponent because you could sleepwalk and win. But I think to the point about the defense. I hear it on the Rosillo podcast he does with Chris Long on Mondays. You hear the comment about complementary football and the offense. They were probably limited in terms of what they were going to throw out there because, again, they want to probably keep some of it off tape. But I feel like the defense is so shaky, and maybe that applies to the defense as well. Maybe they didn't want to do anything too crazy. Maybe they wanted to be vanilla as much as possible. But when the defense looks like that, I think it brings everything down in terms of a complementary football, looking at that team. Because as good as you felt about beating Boston College, which isn't the greatest team, obviously, but to go on the road and win makes you feel really good. Then you come at home and you kind of look that way. I think a lot of it is just the defense being hamstrung in terms of the injuries and then maybe just not being overall talented enough, and that brings everything else down with it. But, again, you won. You made it to a bowl game. So that's important.
Yeah, I mean, that is the most important thing. Odell won again. Certainly, I don't think anybody at Warchant is stumping for him as the head coach. We've written positive columns because he's 4-0.
Who's he beat though? Who's he played?
Exactly,
Corey?
sure. Nobody. Who did Willie beat? Nobody. The only good team, the only sort of good team that Willie beat in his tenure was Boston College, and it was at home, and it took a 74-yard touchdown in the final 2 minutes to win that game.
We'll see. This Louisville game might still end up being that.
Yeah, you're right. That was a nice win. That's fine. That was his signature dub of the 9 that he got. But yeah, man, you can't. I mean, you're not going to dismiss. Florida State's not in a place where they can dismiss wins and being 4-0, and 3 of those are against at least Division I teams. And he got you to a bowl, which is great. The win at Boston College to me is the best one they've had of the last 2 years.
Yeah,
and that says a mouthful because I am not sitting here telling you that is a good Boston College team they beat because it isn't at all. I thought Alabama State's defense was as good as Boston College's. Like, at least they had some speed. Jordan Travis got tracked down at least. Didn't look like he was running against 9-year-olds. So
Jordan Travis is not Michael Vick reincarnate?
No. But I said it after the game against Alabama State. I think it's 50-50 that the quarterback for next year is currently on the roster. But I do think Jordan Travis, maybe even more than James Blackman, depending on how it shakes out, does have a future within this program. I do think that is the wheels, the legs, that is something you can use over the next few years. He might not want to be that dude. He might not want to be Wild Trav and want to bounce to another school where he's going to definitely be the starter. But, man, I just think that's something you need. That's something that's been sorely lacking for a long time, a quarterback that can run. But, man, Odell, I'm not sitting here saying they should hire Odell. I said last week, and I still believe it, Alabama State certainly didn't change my opinion. I think there are 3 or 4 names that you definitely want above Odell Haggins. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Are they realistic? Can you get them? Would they say yes? All that stuff. If they fall through and it doesn't happen, and Odell apparently interviewed for the job on Sunday, had his interview, I think you tell him, I think he knows, look, man, I don't want to be rude. You're a great Seminole. you're third or fourth on our list. You're fourth on our list. But we don't know how viable the first 3 guys are. And if we get to you, please don't take offense. But if we get to you, we want you to be the head coach. But it depends on what so-and-so and so-and-so says. It's like you do with an actor. Like, hey, man, like A Few Good Men, Kevin Pollak. You know that role, Kevin Pollak? Yeah. Jason Alexander was supposed to be that guy.
Oh, geez, thank God he wasn't.
And what happened was he was up for Seinfeld. And I think they'd even done a season of Seinfeld. He's like, look, we don't know if we're going to get picked up. This is what Rob Reiner told Kevin Pollak. It's like, look, Jason Alexander has the part. Only if the Seinfeld role doesn't get picked up. If it gets picked up, then he's going to go do Seinfeld, and you're our second option. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Kevin Pollak's pretty cool with that.
Yeah.
Like he's like, what? I'm not your first option. Screw it. Yeah. I'm not doing this. I feel like that's what you tell, and it worked out for everybody involved. I think Jason Alexander made some money off that Seinfeld decision. I think that's what you do with Odell is say, look, man, you're our third or fourth option. Obviously, one appears like has declined. We still got a couple above you, but if those don't work out, man, you're our guy. And I have no problem with that. I think that's the right attitude to have. I don't think what Odell has done these 2 weeks is makes the future of Florida State a certainty. Where like he's definitely the guy, and I certainly don't care that the players want him. And maybe I should, maybe that is a big deal, but I just wouldn't let the emotions of a 19 or 20-year-old dictate to me who's going to be my head coach for the next 5 or 10 years. We're grown-ups. We're adults. We make these decisions. They don't. They'll play for whoever we give them to play for. I wouldn't just take their word and say, okay, they say Odell's the guy. Let's go with them. No, man. What do they know? They're 19. No. What did any of us know when we're 19? But I do think he's a legitimate candidate right now, right?
Yeah, he interviewed for the job. I mean, they're not.
But I mean, in your mind, as a Florida State fan, is he a legitimate? Would you be okay
with as a Florida State fan or as an objective?
As a Florida State fan, give me your honest take, because I get there's gray. We all like Odell. Mm-hmm. We all like Odell. Whether we like him as a head coach or not, that doesn't matter. We like him as a person. We like him as a part of the Florida State program. That doesn't mean automatically we like him as a head coach.
Right.
But where are you in that dilemma?
I don't hate it.
I don't either.
My buddy John texted me. He's like, I don't hate the thought of Odell being the head coach. I'm like, I don't either.
Yeah.
I'm not over the moon about it.
Yeah, but how could you way too? Yeah. I get and I don't think like it's going to be
panic though. I mean, the people on the message board they think that we are helping push this quote narrative of Odell and how dare this is horrible. Is this real life? Like, are amateur hour continues with this administration, et cetera, et cetera? It's bizarre. I mean, they're. It's anger. It's anger. It's not. It's anger. They're upset, man.
But from what? Like, what is that? What's made that fester? Like, where is that coming from? That they think that like, oh, we don't get Stoops, so Odell's the next option. Like, they think we're a part of the game plan.
I think we're like the fall guy for it. I mean, they can't, because John Thrasher, you can't yell at him. They can't yell at David
Sure,
Coburn.
you can. Go on. You can find his email address.
That's
it's
true.
out there somewhere.
Yeah,
I think there's a phone number next to it. Go call it.
Well, I think they just, again, they're of the belief that Florida State remains like a top 5 destination job, and how dare they sell for Odell, and not you and I, the royal we. The university's not maybe taking this search serious enough, or they don't have a good enough plan, and just you can tell Odell just being a Seminole and
right.
bleeding garnet and gold, and it's all about us, and all that's not good enough to be a head coach.
And I'm mostly in that camp. Like, no, I don't care that you've been here 27 years. Are you the right guy to be the head coach? Right. I get that. I'm all for that. But there's nobody that's making the argument, pro and con, that knows. You just don't know. We all 2 or 3 years ago, whatever it was, 2 years ago, laughed at LSU. Laughed
Absolutely.
at them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just because they hired a guy that hadn't been a position coach before. They hired a guy that had failed at Ole Miss. Like, he didn't get the job done at Ole Miss. You're LSU. I mean, how many programs in the country are better than LSU? 7? 6? I mean, I don't know. I mean, really, It's up there with Florida State. It's one of the very best jobs in the country. And they hired a guy that not only had never been a coordinator before, he had been a head coach before and failed. Like, got fired at Ole Miss. Yeah. How bad do you have to be to get fired at Ole Miss? They don't have any expectations there. All they care about is that stupid Grove. They don't care if you win games there.
It's not stupid, though. It's actually
cool. I don't know why I said really stupid. Cool. It's a great Grove. But they haven't won anything since a Manning was running around. And even then, they didn't win anything. They
won the Sugar Bowl.
They've had 2 Mannings, and they haven't won anything except when they cheated blatantly for the whole world to see. That's the only time they've won anything. It's Ole Miss, man. And they thought that they were better than Orgeron. And now look what he's doing at LSU. And again, you can't keep using the Orgeron as an example of that's not the Odell get out of jail card. You know what I mean? Like, oh, hey, look what happened to LSU. That's not normal, I don't think. Right, Orgeron's a different guy.
Yeah, like people would point at Dabo. Dabo had a bad first season, get off Willie's back. Like,
when Dabo wasn't a coordinator either. But Dabo obviously had some – that
was literally his first job, though.
Yeah, it really was.
Willie was like in year 11 of doing
this. But the point of this
is
you don't know. Odell, they might win 10 games in a row for 6 straight years if Odell's the coach. You don't know. It depends. There's a lot of variables that go into this. And it's not like there's anybody out there, and we've talked about this, especially with Stoops if he's out of the equation.
Which on Friday was reported that he's no longer a candidate.
Right. So if he's out of the equation, who out there, Seminole fans, Seminole Nation, is an absolute slam dunk? There isn't one.
None of those 3 names in Gene's update from Saturday night. That was the most depressing part of Saturday.
You have an opinion. You might think Matt Rule would be a great Florida State coach because of what he's done at Baylor. And what he's done at Baylor has been very impressive. What Steve Robinson did at Tulsa was impressive. How did that translate to Florida State in the ACC in basketball? It doesn't. You just don't know. So everything being equal, if it comes down to Mark Stoops or Odell Haggins, who do you want? And you can't get – you're not getting Kirby Smart. You're not getting Orgeron. You're not getting Dabo or Saban.
Or Urban Meyer.
How many programs in this country right now would you say are on footing better than Florida State?
Oh, jeez.
If you're looking big picture, not the last 3 years, not the microcosm of the last 3 years, but the last 20 years.
But you're talking about what kind of ground you're on, then we live in the now. We live in the here and now. What you did 7 years ago doesn't matter.
But it matters to a coach that thinks about what he can do, with the potential he has. So somebody like
Baylor's in a better position than we are right now, but we have a better ceiling.
But obviously,
than Baylor.
Matt Rule knows he can't win it.
Yeah, but we have a higher ceiling.
Yeah, Florida State, you can win national championships. You get to recruit those guys. So Baylor doesn't count. Obviously, I'm talking about like the. Not even Minnesota. I'm talking about like the Penn States of the world, the Iowas of the world, Auburn. Right. Like there's nobody that's on Florida State's level or above Florida State's level that you're going to get their coach.
Yeah, like you're not going to get Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma.
No, you're not getting the guy from Ohio State. I don't even know if he can coach. He's got a really good team. Yeah. You're not getting Kirby Smart. You're not getting Dabo, you're not getting Saban, Orgeron. And those are the schools that you have a sure thing in. If Kirby Smart came to Florida State would be really good. They'd be boring as all get out to watch. Trust me, folks. Yeah. I watch enough Georgia football to tell you it's incredibly boring, except for all the tackles their defense makes
and the winning.
And all the winning. That doesn't get boring. So, but other than that, there's nobody out there that's a sure thing that you can get. Like even James Franklin. Like I think James Franklin would be great at Florida State. I really do. I think he would be close to a slam dunk.
He's from not that high on. I think he's an Atlantic Eastern Seaboard guy. I think he.
But that's what I was going to say. He's from. But if you can recruit at Penn State, make that a power after what they went through.
Bill O'Brien kind of helped get them back on track too, though.
He was the bridge.
Yeah.
But they were 6, 7, 8 wins, whatever you said, and then the last few years they're always winning 10 or 11 games.
Rose Bowls.
And he's a very good recruiter, and I think you combine his acumen, his recruiting ability with this program, it would be lights out. Even still, I don't know if it's a guarantee. I also don't know why he would leave.
Yeah, he's a Pennsylvania kid.
He's a Pennsylvania guy. So there just aren't, when you're looking at the names that are being floated out there, and remember, who did Florida just hire? Who did they hire before that? Florida, you would say, anybody listening to this show, even if obviously you don't like Florida, none of us like Florida, but they're on equal footing as Florida State. very similar programs, about the same program. Florida has more money, but everything else being equal. Their last 4 hires were Ron Zook. I don't even remember where he was from.
He was like a defensive coordinator somewhere, like maybe
The
Illinois.
NFL or something. He went to Illinois
afterwards.
But he wasn't.
Yeah, he was like a special teams guy for like the Packers.
Yeah, and he was a failed defensive coordinator at Florida. So you got Ron Zook, who we don't even know where he was from. You got the head coach of Utah. You got the head coach of Colorado State. And then you got the head coach of Mississippi State.
Well, you had the head coach in waiting from Texas, too.
Yeah, and you had the head coach in waiting from Texas, who probably should be fired from South Carolina, but he beat Georgia this year.
Saints defensive coordinator, or Saints special teams coordinator. So, it was DC. He was DC, sorry. Saints defensive coordinator.
When they didn't have a good defense.
Correct.
So keep that in mind when you're thinking about who Florida State should get. Like, you don't get the Oklahoma head coach. That doesn't happen at any place. Florida has had as much success as you in the last 25 years, probably. More money. And just listen to what I just told you. An NFL assistant coach, a Utah head coach, a Colorado State head coach, and a Mississippi State head coach. Like, that's the pool you're choosing from. They hit 2 out of 4, 50%. I guess we can call Mullen a hit.
Yeah,
close.
They'll do good. They'll win 10 games with him. They'll compete for the East.
So
but they are winning the East with McElwain too.
So when you're choosing from that pool, you say you wanted the Ole Miss. I know you don't, but the Ole Miss head coach. Maybe if he brought that quarterback, holy moly, that kid can run.
They tried to get that kid.
I know, that would have been nice to have somebody that could move like that. Man, Willie might still be here. But when you're thinking about that pool, when there's no sure things, and then, okay, we really like the guy from Memphis. We really like Mark Stoops. Maybe he'd do great at Florida State. We really like, what's his name at Iowa State?
Matt Campbell.
Who actually is a good coach. I like that guy.
Yes.
Is he more of a sure thing than Odell? I don't know. I would take him, me personally, this is just me talking, I would take him over Odell.
Yes, I would as well. I would take Odell over Norville.
What about Mark Stoops? I think I would take
beat the Gators. It's kind of cool.
Well, he did, yeah. Not this year. He didn't. He blew it.
Could have though.
When Felipe got hurt.
Almost did. I mean, I love Odell more than Mark Stoops, but I mean, Mark Stoops maybe. But that's the whole thing. You don't know.
Didn't you feel like you got this wasn't the Stoops brother we were after?
Yeah.
This wasn't even the guy we wanted. Did something get lost? Can Bob be a consultant? Can he at least like bounce some things off his brother
man,
when he's making decisions?
He can kick rocks with no socks, man.
You know, you're not a big Bob Stoops fan now, are you?
Man, beat it.
So my choices above Odell, and there's 1,000 possibilities out there. There might be an NFL assistant right now who would be an incredible college head coach. Just there might be. Nobody thought Pete Carroll would do anything at the college level. Everybody scoffed at USC for hiring him.
Head coach though.
And well, no, sure. Then Dan Quinn, if he got fired, he might be a great college coach. We don't know. You just don't know. But like I would say, there's 3 names out there for sure that I think would be better in the long term for Florida State.
And a reasonable or just
no, yeah, like reasonable, like Venables, whatever. There doesn't seem to be a lot of smoke there, so that's apparently not happening. Yeah. But Venables, because of what it would do to Clemson, and because you're guaranteed of having a very good defense within a short amount of time. And then Campbell, and then I really like the guy at Baylor, and not just because of what they did at Oklahoma. Yeah. I mean, they blew that game, and I'm all about blowing 28-3 leads. That's my life. That's what I live. It feels good, really feels good to have those big leads and just slowly watch them melt down. And that was even more torturous than the Falcons one. Because the Falcons one only happened in like 17 minutes. Yeah. Theirs was like a 43-minute
2.5 quarters.
Yeah, it was just like Jalen Hurts, another 3rd and 6, first down. I think they had like 26 first downs to Baylor's 2.
This is sacrilegious. I'm almost more ready for Jalen Hurts to stop playing college football than I was Tim Tebow. Like, who are you? You're not even a quarterback. Stop pretending you're a quarterback. Shouldn't be allowed to do what he does. It's not fair. Make a Jalen Hurts rule.
For 2 teams.
You can only run like 15 times in a game out of the pocket. Knock it off.
30 times? Come on, man.
Geez.
Come on. Hey, Lincoln, how about devising an offense where you just thought, hey, you're a good athlete. Go run for that first down. I got nothing for us. That's a joke, by the way. He's very, very good coordinator, very good offensive mind. But, yeah, man, I like the rule guy because of what he's done at Temple and then what he's done at this place in a big conference.
In a short amount of time.
Obviously, he's got some creds. He's a very good coach.
NFL, the Jets wanted him, but they wouldn't give him any sort of pull on personnel decisions, so they hired Adam Gase.
And I saw something on
Good
Twitter
job.
that
Good job, guys.
the 3 hottest names for NFL coaches are him,
Lincoln Riley,
and Campbell.
Really?
So if Florida State's in the mix for that, a guy that NFL teams are after, then man, that's something you can pursue. But yeah, when you look at those names, I don't know that like a Mark Stoops or a guy at Memphis would be like, well, yeah, we definitely got to say no to Odell so we can get that.
Let's talk more about the coaching. Let's take a quick break, though.
At Birch Orthodontics, they know what a difference a beautiful and healthy smile can make in your life.
They take the time to get to know you and perform a thorough exam so that they can make an individualized treatment plan just for you or your child.
They use the latest technology in a warm and comfortable environment. So whether you are interested in traditional metal or clear braces or clear aligners, they can give you the smile you deserve. They know investing in your smile means investing in your future. And at Birch Orthodontics, they are honored to be a part of your smile journey.
Serving Tallahassee for 16 years and supporting the Noles since forever. Check them out at birchorthodontics.com. BURCH orthodontics.com. Welcome back to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's. Maybe this will be the week. It's an off week. It's
Shout out
cold
to Birch as well.
I think this might be the week I might finally go. I don't want to get hit with like you do need braces. And
you never had braces.
$6,500.
You never had, well, it's Birch. She'll be a friend.
But man, I'm trying to buy a house maybe. Braces.
Well, what are you, 30-something? Doesn't matter. But you've made it this far without completely straight teeth, I guess. I don't feel like I look at your smile and think that you have
I have a
bad
great
teeth.
smile. My bite is all jacked up, and I think it affects the way I breathe, especially when I'm sleeping. I think I clench my jaw a lot. That might be like anxiety and stuff. I don't know if that's really a jaw thing you can fix. I might need to take Xanax a bunch.
Well, go to Heather Birch and see.
Yeah, she'll let us know. Maybe
she'll let you know.
Maybe get like a CBD, whatever.
Yeah, probably.
Prescription
That's
or
what
whatever.
you need.
Get me all right.
Yeah, folks, if you want one of those prescriptions, obviously Heather Birch is the place to go.
But yeah, I should do it this week. It's an off week. Speaking of which, some programming stuff. We'll probably not do a show tomorrow.
Okay.
And then we'll do a show for Wednesday and Thursday, which will be Renegade Express, and that'll be a wrap for the week, I think.
Okay. Sure.
Perfect. Unless the coach is hired, in which case we'll jump in immediately and do something for you folks because Corey loves you.
Right.
Kind of deal with you guys sometimes.
I do love you guys.
I thought about this while you were. We took our break and it popped up on the television. What do you think about this? What if we go to Athens this weekend, big guy? I get to see Dad coach again, and you can kind of watch the dogs
for the A&M game, the A&M Georgia game. Sorry, buddy, I'll be with. I might be in Biloxi, coming back from Biloxi, so I don't think I'll be able to get up there in time.
Oh, okay.
But you could go watch that. That'll be another exciting 17-13 SEC contest. Because Georgia doesn't score on anyone, and they don't have anybody score on them, so they're always about the same score.
Oh, man, I would take the wind out of myself. I was like, this is going to work.
Sorry, buddy. That would have been cool. Have you ever been to a game there?
Never.
Well, go.
Never. And I
you
could
go
Jimbo, I love you, man.
Well, don't do that.
Miss you.
You wearing your Florida State gear? Your 2013 14-0
I got
shirt?
my A&M pullover, probably.
Sure. Your Mon jersey?
By the way, man, yeah, no, I shouldn't talk about that. Let's get back to the coaching stuff for Florida State. It's Wake Up Warchant. So, Bob
What a weird
Stoops,
time, by the way. Just what a weird time.
It's, and I think that's where there's so much anger. I don't think it's personal towards anybody at the website. I don't think it's towards really the administration. The people that keep dogging on the administration, I don't know, like, what are they doing that's wrong? What are they doing that's wrong?
But I get a part of that in the sense that, okay, why did you fire him if you obviously didn't have somebody that was lined up? And maybe you had some feelers out there that Stoops might be
because nobody believed
interested.
in him. They didn't believe that he was going to ever fix it.
That's the counter to that, is if you know he's not your guy, if you think that Odell Haggins would be better in the long term than Willie Taggart, then why are you paying him $5 million a year? Yeah. Just cut the cord. You're done with it. You don't like him. You'll figure out who the head coach is later. You want him out of the program so you can start making maneuvers for the future. And what have you really lost? Like,
$17 million.
As far as, but you were going to lose that anyway if you fired him now or at the end of the year. Okay. What I'm talking about is you knew he was going to get fired. Why wait till the end of the Florida game? The only person that for sure that you've made an offer to that did not respond the way you wanted him to was Bob effing Stoops.
Right.
Like, it's not like you're out there having your name dragged through the mud by 7 or 8 or 12 different coaches that have said no to you.
That wasn't like you went after Chip Kelly. He said no. Scott Frost said no. And you're like, Dan,
I guess
please?
we'll go with Dan Mullen. Yeah. So it's not like I don't think you're behind the 8 ball at all. I don't think you're behind anyone. What you have coming up is USC after Thanksgiving. Their job will be open. So that's who you're competing with. Arkansas, I don't care. Don't miss me with Arkansas. That doesn't matter. So the coaches that are your potential hires,
Auburn, but I'm not
maybe.
Yeah.
But the coaches that are your potential hires are still your potential hires. You haven't missed on anyone other than Bob Stoops.
Right.
So what's the problem?
Exactly. Yeah. I think to your point, you're talking about it's a weird time. There's so much anxiety. I think because I think people,
but
thought,
not as much anxiety if Willie Taggart was coming back in 2020.
Yeah.
Not even close.
That's true.
So what's I guess I don't understand the issue. Nobody that's upset. I wouldn't think many people that are upset with Florida State for what they did think that they made a mistake in firing Willie Taggart. You might think, okay, you made a mistake doing it so soon, but what is it to you? Right. Like the money's the money. He was going to get paid that whether you fired him after Florida or fired him after Miami. He was still going to get that buyout, and you still were going to be looking for a head coach. So what's the problem? Yeah, you've gone 2 weeks now without a person as the head coach. When last time you had an opening, it was for 4 days. Mm-hmm. So I get that you're upset. You're not used to that. But in the grand scheme of things, you don't really hire a coach till Thanksgiving anyway, especially if it's a current coach. Like Bob Stoops was the shot. You took a shot. We get it. It was a good shot. Be proud that you were in the running and you had a shot at that guy. But you didn't get him. Okay, where's the harm? Yeah. What's happened since then? Nothing. You're the people that were still going to be Florida State candidates are still Florida State candidates, right?
Yeah, no. To your point, that's true. But I think where a lot of the anxiety is just, I think about this. Like if it is like a Mike Norvell, like what is Florida State's identity? What is Florida State's identity going to be if they get a Mark Stoops, if they get a Mike Norvell? I just think about that. Because this team had no identity with Willie Taggart. And with Jimbo, as much as – and this is why, again, and I hate to – this is not like a I told you so thing. I promise you. It's not – where I came from with Jimbo always was, like, this team was always going to compete for a national title. I felt like every 3 years it would come back around some point. And they were going to win boring games. It was going to be ugly, but they were going to win more often than not. They were going to probably keep the rivals at bay, things of that nature. And that's a tough damn thing to do, and we took it for granted so badly. And now this is what we looked at. We had 19 games of Willie Taggart and potentially what? I mean, again, if you look at that, the Saturday update that Gene put, which is the most recent update that we have as we record this on Sunday evening, I want no part of those three guys. And I shouldn't say that because one of them might be the head coach. I might have to interview him and he's like, hey, you're the guy that said you want no part of me on your podcast. None of those guys make me believe that that's the elixir that's going to get this thing to turn the corner. And I think that's where a lot of the anxiety is right now. And people are like, well, then it's going to be, and then Odell, so what are things going to look like in 3 years is what's got people so upset, the unknown, if you will.
Yeah, I think the problem with Odell is it almost looks like, well, we didn't get our guy, so let's settle. And you don't want to settle. This is too important a hire to settle. And in a way, I can see that viewpoint because if he was your guy all along, you wouldn't have made it an interim. Right. He'd be the permanent head coach. He was the interim head coach for a reason because you're looking for something better in your eyes. If you don't get him and you settle for Odell, then okay. Again, LSU wanted Jimbo Fisher and Tom Herman. Neither of them happened. Yeah. They settled for a guy. They're now number 1 in the country. And they score 50 points a game.
Amazing, man.
It's nuts. They give up 400 yards rushing and still win by 3 touchdowns. They just won at Alabama with a healthy Tua. Healthy-ish Tua. Not, hipless Tua. Man, none of us know. You don't know. There were plenty of people that were really upset about Jimbo's hire. You're Florida State. You're going to hire an assistant that's not proven, that's never been a head coach, and that worked out. I get it. Stoops isn't a guy that's going to blow any skirts up. No. Absolutely not. Mark. Bob, they'd all be. They'd be like Marilyn Monroe over that subway grade or whatever. I get it. But Mark, yeah, you're just standing over, no air's coming at all. It's Marilyn Monroe just sitting there on
a manhole, just steam from a sewer coming out like this is gross.
But he might end up being an incredible head coach for Florida State. We don't know. We just don't. It's not going to be something that excites anyone. I get that. But other than Bob, I don't know if there's a name out there that would excite you right now. I'm talking about if you're a booster right now and you're thinking about season tickets for 2020 and national championship plans in 2022, there's no name that's a viable name out there that you know for sure you'd be excited about.
Man, there's like 3 things I want to pivot to. None of them naturally. So just
do it.
Awkwardly do it. You want to talk about, let's not compare Odell so much to Orgeron, and then I kind of derailed you there. So maybe want to kind of get you back on track with that. Just because they have a similar kind of backstory, defensive line coach turned interim coach, and then, now what Ed's doing, taking down everybody. Revenge tour 2019. Went into Oxford. Matt Luke. They are different guys, and I think part of it is there's a game manager, there's a CEO. Despite the fact that Orgeron blows a gasket every game and is covered in sweat and looks like a maniac a lot of the game, not so much like Muschamp, but he kind of gets lathered up. There still seems to be a bold vision that he has. We talked about when they lost to Alabama, was it 2 years ago? We coming. He mentioned, I got to get a better quarterback. I got to get better guys on the lines of scrimmage, and I got to get the best coaches I can. He literally says, I have to hire the best coaches I can, and we've got to do better on the front lines. And he went ahead and made that happen. We haven't heard that kind of vision from Odell, and so I think there is something to be said about let's not get maybe too carried away and think that the Orgeron thing is like a blueprint or a sort of slam dunk. They are different kind of guys in terms of what they've grown up around and how they've been kind of mentored. Because I think to a large degree, Odell worked under Mickey. Mickey wasn't a head coach. Mickey didn't have the aspiration to be a head coach. Mickey just knew one thing, and that was how to put a badass defense out there year in and year out practically. I think Orgeron coaching under Pete Carroll, a guy who was also defensive minded, but was a head coach and kind of they shared in those philosophies and showed him how to properly recruit, what to look for when you recruit, not only defensively, but what you need offensively and how you need to develop a program and how you need to develop a culture and all those big picture things. I think that's something that Odell hasn't had the luxury of. And also, having been a head coach for 3 years and failed and learned from that is another thing that Odell does not have. So that sort of comparison is probably not the most apples to apples thing out there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think your last point is the best. He, say what you want about him, Ed O. He had been in that ring. He had been a head coach in the SEC West for 3 years. Had recruited the Joe McKnights of the world. Lost him to where'd he go? USC. Yeah. Well, LSU was recruiting him. He's from New Orleans, right? Yeah. He's from but he had been in all those battles. He had done that. He had coached in the SEC West. And Odell's never done that. Odell's never been a head coach for more than a couple of blips. And it's just different when it's actually your program and not a program you're kind of when you're the real teacher, not the substitute teacher. And it's cool to like the substitute teacher, but you don't know if he can do it for 180 days or whatever teachers teach. I think it's 180 days in the school year. Yeah. It's different. Instead of coaching 30 days, you're teaching 180 days. So I get it. I get the anxiety. I get the worry. It is a really big hire. If they go with Odell, my gut tells me that if they go with the Odell, it's because plan A, B, and C didn't work out. Mm-hmm. If that happens, then again, what you have to ask yourself is, would you rather go with plan D or a guy that's been here for 27 years? That institutionally knows what needs to be fixed, what needs to be changed, has been here, has a lot of experience to draw from, a lot of voices he can draw from. And, again, I said it last week, the best thing about Odell is he knows what he doesn't know. And he's going to let his OC be an OC. And he's going to let his DC be a DC. He's going to I guess he'd hire a defensive line coach, but he's going to spend a lot of time on the defensive line. That's his specialty. That's what he does. He's not going to all of a sudden start telling Kendall Briles, man, you got to get under center more. Let's get in the power I formation and start running that. He knows who his OC is. So I just think that, and he's going to let him coach. I think that's a strength. But yeah, I have no idea if it will work out. I would never sit here and say that I think it would work out because I don't know. I think, and like you said, the one of the drawbacks to hiring Odell as the head coach is that all the fun-loving and for Odell and everybody loves Odell and Man, wait till he loses a couple of games, and then they all turn on Odell, and that wouldn't be fun to see. For a guy that's just literally bled and lived for this university for 30 years. So that's a drawback to me. But if you think that he can really change the culture to where it needs to be, and you trust him to make the right hires, or you help him, whatever you have to do with the hires, if you trust him to make the right hires and get the people in place that can, and he can just be the head coach, the face of the program, man, I wouldn't certainly. I'm not totally against it. I'm not totally against it. Depending, I would take Venables. I would take
Matt Campbell.
Rule. I would take Matt Campbell before him. But would I take Dino Babers? Would I take Mark Stoops? Would I take
Mike Norville?
Mike Norville, man.
Sorry to keep picking on you, Mike.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. I think I might stick with Odell before those guys.
He was at midfield for most of the pregame warm-ups that I saw, so he wasn't even really coaching the defensive line. He kind of, assumed that position. And to your point about, institutionally knowing what needs to change in terms of a culture, somebody asked on the Renegade Express, and, you wrote in your column after the game, there's the swag surfing thing that Ira asked them about, the pre-kickoff choreographed swaying back and forth, arms around each other, getting hyped up, which to some people is cool. To others, it's kind of ridiculous. No longer occurred on the hallowed grounds of Bobby Bowden Field at Doak S. Campbell Stadium. From what you've heard, apparently even that the festive, furious Nole drill, Oklahoma drill, whatever four-on-four nonsense they did, apparently did not make a triumphant return to the Al Dunlap practice
transition.
fields.
Yeah.
So there's things to be said. And again, if people are saying, well, they look terrible against Alabama State. Let's see what happens against Florida. Again, I think all this is also prefaced on the fact that he kind of needs to beat Florida. If he doesn't beat Florida,
1,000%.
This
not
goes
even
by the
beat.
wayside.
I don't think he has to beat them. If it's a game in the third or fourth quarter,
Yeah.
If you fight hard and you just lose because you're not very good,
Yeah.
but they fight hard and then they'll just wilt and fold and lose 45-0. I think there's a chance. I do think there's a chance. But you're absolutely right. That's why it's such a weird time. Because would you really hire Odell the week of the Florida game, and then he goes and loses by 5 touchdowns?
Yeah.
Good luck selling tickets, man. Yeah. Like, it's not fair, but a lot of it comes down to that Florida game. I'm telling you what, if they go and beat Florida or play Florida close with this team,
we don't really expect.
We don't expect. Yeah. But if it happens, don't you think, well, by gosh, what else are we looking for? Yeah. I really do think that the whole fan base's mind clicks. But until that happens, he's beaten Boston College and Alabama State, which, there's nothing to say that Willie wouldn't have done that. So, man, I get it. And I think if the Florida is the whole key, if they play Florida close, tight game, man, I'm telling you, it's going to be really hard to hire someone instead of him.
Yeah.
But no, we don't expect that to happen.
No. And back to the point that real quickly, the skepticism around him or the anxiety about they're really going to think about hiring him, and then look at the way they looked against Alabama State. Alabama State's lousy. Who knows really how much of a game plan they put forth for that game. A lot of guys sat out. Also, it's going to take more than 2 weeks to shake out some of this stuff. And I know people are like, well, you gave Willie no time. You said he should have changed things overnight with Jimbo. It's not necessarily the case. I just didn't agree with the sort of huge swing in philosophy. And I thought at some point, mid-2018, we should have seen something better than what we saw. Yeah, man, like 2 weeks of him being, all right, no more of this nonsense at the beginning of practice, no more acting stupid before kickoffs. That's not going to instantly turn into like a 21-point swing in their favor. But, the Florida game with another week to prepare, maybe another week to get some bad habits out of them. Cam Akers a little bit healthier and available. Asante Samuel out there. Corey Durnan maybe a little bit healthy. Everybody's a little bit more healthy and with a little bit more to prove. We can kind of maybe see just how good this team could be with a guy like Odell running the show. Real quick, and then I wanted to maybe pivot to something else coaching-wise that deals with Bob Stoops and bigger picture stuff. How much of Odell maybe coming around, and this is total conjecture, but that's what we do on a podcast sometimes, how much of you think Odell coming around to, okay, I do want this job? Again, man, he coached under Bobby Bowden and has immense respect for Bobby Bowden. Say what you will about his relationship with Jimbo Fisher. I think he has a lot of respect for what Jimbo was I mean, if you listen to his post-game comments, like in the locker room, the way he talks a lot more. There's a good amount of Jimbo and Bobby in him. People always talk about Jimbo was supposed to be a little bit of Bobby and a little bit of Nick Saban mixed up, and it was like, no, man, he was like 97% Saban, 3% Bobby Bowden.
He wasn't outwardly rude like Saban will be. No. But other than that, he was mostly Saban.
Yeah. Like Odell is like 60-40 Bowden and Fisher. He talks about trust the process. He's talking about toughness, effort, discipline. That was Jimbo's motto when he first got to Florida State. So there's a lot of stuff that he kind of pulls from him. But I do wonder if Odell's a guy that's been coaching for so long and has been around so many great coaches that he's like, damn, I'm not Bobby Bowden. Like, I can't be a head coach. Like, I'm not Jimbo. I can't build. So I can't take over from a legend like Bobby Bowden and turn into a winner like what Jimbo did. I can't do it. Like, how much do you think Odell and some of the change that he's done, which go against and counteract the change that Willie thought were going to help turn this program around, how much do you think of Odell's interest is hanging around Willie Taggart for the last 2 years and being like, well, if he was a head coach here?
Oh, man.
I mean,
I don't know.
I think I can probably do this.
I don't know. I don't know if that's his mindset. I think he saw some things that obviously quite bothered him. You brought up swag surfing, and when Ira asked him about it, he said he didn't know what it was. Maybe he didn't know the technical name for it, but it wasn't playing, and they didn't just do that willy-nilly like, oh, Willie's not here anymore. Right. I guarantee you they asked him. Somebody made that decision. We're not doing the swag surfing anymore. We're not doing knuck if you buck anymore before practice. Hey, man, you're not looking at me when I'm talking? Give me 50 up downs. That was what Cole Minshew said that happened during the week. Man, there were some things that he saw over the last 2 years that bothered the bejesus out of him. And I guarantee you some stuff happened in 2017 that bothered the bejesus out of him. Mm-hmm. He's like, what were we? We're Florida State, man. What are we doing?
How come I'm at the airport, nobody's here? We're not recruiting anymore?
Yeah, exactly right.
Recruiting.
All that's exactly. So, I think you just see, man, he cares about this place so much that he saw somebody that came in. First off, he saw a guy that checked out, wasn't here. He hated it. I guarantee he hated it. He hated being in Boston to lose 35-3. That was embarrassing for Odell Haggins, man. And then the next 2 years, he's sitting through another coaching regime that just, I'm sure he didn't recognize the program. He didn't. What is this? What are we doing? And he's making I think the last time he was the head coach for that short term, again, it was a stopgap. Let's just get us to the bowl game. Everything will be fine. I'm Odell. This is fun. I'll smile and say nice things about Florida State. This time he's really trying to implement change because he was so angry about how it had gone for the last 21 games. Maybe, frankly, the last 33, 34 games. But the last 21 games in particular, he went out and made real change. He did. And that's why I asked him about Isaiah Bolden coming up and catching that kick. To me, that's at the heart of what coaches do, man. And it's Alabama State. Nobody gives a flip. You're going to win this game by 3 or 4 touchdowns if you play poorly or not, or if you have Cam Akers or not. But their first 4 kicks, they pooched it. You fair caught them all. They're pooching it away from Isaiah Bolden because they know they don't have a good kick coverage team, and they're afraid he's going to bust it 90 yards for a touchdown, so they keep pooching it. So I asked Odell, because the last kick return, Bolden catches it on a dead run at like the 25, going full speed, and gets past midfield. And I asked him, was that something he did on his own, or was that something you talked to him about? He's like, well, no, we knew what they were trying to do after the 3rd or 4th one. And so the coaches went to him and said, hey, man, go back to the 5 like you normally are. As soon as he starts to approach the ball, start sprinting in, and we want you to catch it. Lo and behold, he caught it on the run. The up-backs knew what they were doing. They blocked, and he busted it past the 50. That's coaching. It's a small thing, but it's attention to detail and understand, well, this doesn't make any sense. Why do we keep fair catching the ball and giving ourselves the ball at the 23? Let's get our best athlete the chance to catch a ball on the run and see if he can bust it. You see that stuff and you're like, that's why I asked him that. I was like, man, that's what you want that's what a head coach does, right? To make decisions like that. I think that's, again, it's Alabama State. I'm not putting too much stock into it, but that's a really I thought a really enlightening, it was illuminating of what maybe Mark Snyder went to Odell, maybe Odell went to Mark Snyder. I don't care. Right. But they saw something that was giving them problems or they weren't doing well, and they fixed it. Unlike at the beginning of this season where they just fair caught everything. Because they couldn't return any kicks last year without blocking in the back. So they decided against Boise State, we're just going to wave our hand and fair catch everything, even as the game's getting out of control, even though we have Keyshawn Helton. Well, no, man. Odell, he said attack, attack, attack. Yeah. I think that's how he coaches. The flip side of that is, say next year he is the head coach, and they start the season 3-3. They lose to Clemson 49-12. He comes in there in the press conference and says, "We're Florida State.
It's only one way to fix this thing.
We're all
no way.
No way. Yeah, we're no way. It's just different here. Yeah. It's just different. We're all we got. We're all we need.
We're going to run Sunday. We're going to fix it.
We're going to fix it, man. No, it's really cool right now when you're 4-0 to say all this stuff, and I don't think it's flippant. I think people really do enjoy it. I think they do enjoy Odell. I think he believes what he's saying. But, man, that is going to ring so hollow the first time he loses a couple of games. Man, we're all we got. We're all family, we need. We're family. Yeah. It's a family here. It's just different at Florida State. No, man, go get players and go coach them better. That's anybody. The press conferences are cool right now until you lose games.
Right.
When you start losing games, nobody's going to want to hear about, and getting back to the original point the original comment you made to start the podcast, that is where X's and O's will come in.
Yeah.
We will ask them, like, well, what? Okay, we get it. It's Florida State. It's different, and you are a family. What's the Florida State family doing as far as false starts? How's the family addressing false starts? Those will be the questions that would be asked. Right now, it's all fun and games. Everybody loves it because they're winning. And, 3 of the 4 games, they haven't been close. They've been routes. Yeah. But as you move forward, especially if he's the head coach, and we all love those press conferences, is it sustainable? Yeah. Is it sustainable? Are they going to play as hard for you in 2021 as they are 3 games left in 2019? That's the stuff. Again, we don't get paid the money to make these decisions. That's what Coburn and Thrasher and the Board of Trustees has to figure out. In the search firm.
Which people are putting a gross amount of sort of trust and faith in. Everybody hires search firms, and they usually end up not getting good candidates. So, I hope Ed Burr, David Coburn, John Thrasher, I hope that
who is the search firm that got Kirby Smart to Georgia? That's who you need to go
Glenn
figure out.
Sugiyama, the same guy that they have.
Hey, man, that's a home run. That guy, how did he find Kirby Smart?
I don't know, man. It's $40,000 of Google searches. Let him right to that one.
Just don't go to his Wikipedia page?
Yeah, I don't know. All right, last thing I want to talk about, and maybe a little bit more of an extended conversation on things. So on Friday, the news came down from Gene that, he heard from 2 sources that they were going to move on from Bob Stoops. Bob Stoops is no longer a candidate. And as I'm watching the game Saturday, and I tweeted this when they were up 7-3. I didn't tweet it when they were up 14 or 21 or 28-3. They ultimately lost. But one of the things that, and Gene might, I might get demerited for for talking about the Nuggets out there. Subscribers, use the promo code FSU New Era. Get it. Learn it. Love it. But, he put in there when there was some of the momentum building. There was some buzz, I think, generating maybe on Thursday, maybe on Friday morning about, the word was that if this happens, if this was to actually come to fruition with Bob Stoops, it was probably going to be one of the biggest deals in college football history. Maybe not even so much in terms of money, but just in terms of power and assurances of we'll give you this, that, build this, and that, and the other. And then ultimately, it kind of fell by the wayside. But that was building. That was bubbling. Florida State had stepped up and put forth a good enough proposal that it took Bob Stoops, 4 or 5 days to mull it over and really give it a thought. Because to your point, Gene said it on Warchant Report. I said on Warchant.com. I think Ira said it, last year when Willie was falling and blubbering all over himself. Florida State could not afford for Willie Taggart to fail. Well, he failed. Now they can't afford to get this wrong. Well, if they had all these resources to go after Bob Stoops, you have to throw it at a guy like Matt Rule, I feel like.
All right.
I don't know if you throw all of that at a guy like Brent Venables, but, Baylor's a private institution, so we don't have access to the contract that he signed. I think it was a 7-year extension, something like 2028 he's locked up. All we know on the buyout, Mac Rhodes, their AD, simply told the Dallas Morning News that it was an aggressive buyout. I don't know where aggressive sort of lines up. I think Matt Campbell's got a $5 million buyout.
That's peanuts.
If this hire is so important, how much you still put forth for these other plan B, C guys that aren't Bob Stoops. I mean, because, I don't know, you look at Matt Rule, man, back-to-back 10-win seasons at Temple, a place that never won 10 games back-to-back. What he's done at Baylor, they're going to win 10 games this season, 2 years removed from having gone, I think, like 1-11.
Right.
After what they dealt with, which was one of the more, crazy sort of scandals of the last 25 years in major college athletics. Like, that's the bold move that you have to do to get this thing to get it back on track. I feel like, I know nothing's a slam dunk. It's hard to imagine Matt Rule comes here and this program is not winning 10 games by year 2 and 3. I don't think what he inherited would be anywhere near the mess that he inherited at Baylor. And again, and listen,
not even close.
And Baylor, man, Baylor for our life has been horrible outside of like a 6-7 year stretch with Art Briles and his kid.
Right.
And the fact that they're going to win 10, 11 games this season, coming off what they came off of, like it's a huge thing. And I don't want to put like tough expectation on this administration. Like, hey, Aslan, there's no way we can do this. But man, like if they could not afford to have Willie Taggart fail, but can afford to pay the $18 million on the buyout, which I know is going to be comped out or whatever, not comped out, but prorated. How much would him and Matt Campbell? If you can't get Matt Rule, I feel you have to get Matt Campbell. Everybody else to me, and Brent Venables, I think, do any other names that have been out there? No, man. Like, I don't know what you're going to hope to accomplish with those hires. Like, how much would you put forth for one of those guys? Do you take out a second mortgage on the house to get Matt Campbell from Iowa State? Again, Iowa State probably on the same level playing field with a team like Baylor, and he's won 8 games.
Exactly the same playing. I mean, Big 12, middle of the pack, usually a lower tier.
Yeah,
they've been lower tier our whole lifetimes, and now they're
little
viable.
More options, a little more advantages at Baylor probably than Iowa State. I think the only advantage you have at Iowa State is the fact that you're so terrible, you probably get no one's A game. Everyone's probably, it's Iowa State. We're going to roll through and win this one.
Yeah, but I mean, you just beat Texas, man. Yeah. Iowa State we live in a world where Iowa State beat Texas and none of us were stunned. Like, it was just, I think Iowa State might have been favored. And they lost to Oklahoma by a point.
And they had the 2-point play pretty well executed.
Yeah, that was going to win the game for them. Yeah, man, I think both of those guys are good guys. And again, I think they're more of a sure thing than Odell would be, or that Willie was, because of their experience in a big conference. But they're not either. They're just not. You don't know. Just because you win 7 games at Iowa State doesn't mean you can win 12 at Florida State.
Right.
And that's your goal at Florida State. 7 wins ain't good enough here, man. It's just not.
No, absolutely not.
It's fine at Ames. That'll keep you in Ames forever. It'll probably keep you in Waco forever. At Florida State, man, we're not cool blowing 28-3 leads, man. We know what you're dealing with. We know the roster shortcomings that you have, but at year 2, you better be winning games, a lot of games at Florida State, because that's the expectation. So the pressure is different. But I just think if you can win in Ames, Iowa, and you can win in Waco against that competition, again, he's not playing Cincinnati or
Tulsa,
UConn, those teams that are in the AAC. They're playing Texas, Oklahoma State, schools with a ton of money and a ton of resources, and he's competing with and beating. I'm talking about both those guys, those schools. That's, to me, more of a sure thing than Odell, who's never been a head coach ever, anywhere. But none of them are guarantees. None of them. So we can say Matt Rule or bust, or Matt Campbell. Is it all Matts? Yeah. What are we doing here? Are there any other Matts out there? Is there a Matt Stoops?
Nope.
The black sheep of the family that we don't hear about? Maybe hire him. But I think those guys, to me, are more of a sure thing because they've run a big-time program and a big-time conference. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get they're going to be able to go into the state of Florida and recruit against Florida, recruit against Alabama, recruit against Clemson, and win those battles. You just don't know. So I think I like both of those because of what they built. They've shown they can build a program. They've shown they can build it quickly. Baylor was in ruins. Like all their players left. Yeah. He was good at Temple, again, coaching in that conference, but he was good at Temple and then came to Baylor, and you're like, all right, man, good luck. That's where your career goes to die. Why would you leave Temple to go coach that program where you're never going to be able to win more than 3 games because of the negative connotations with Baylor? And now he's got him top 15 in the country and was, a quarter away from being top 5 in the country if they'd have won that game. So it's really impressive what Rule has done. It's impressive what Campbell has done. That doesn't mean they would be better for Florida State than Odell Haggins. I just think they would be more of a I think the chances of
it's
them
much more. I think you're.
I think it's more certain.
Yeah,
I think the ground is the footing is much more solid with those two guys because they have a, they know how to build a program
they have a vision.
From the ground up, and they have a vision, and they've executed it exactly right. Odell hasn't yet. He's been a part of executed visions. He has. He's been a big part of them, but they haven't been his visions. So that to me is the difference. And I do think. It's cool that he interviewed. I think people are excited about the possibility. Some people are excited about the possibility of him being a head coach. But if you go out and get absolutely crushed at Florida, man, you can't sell that. You can't sell 52-3. This guy that just lost 52-3, that's now going to go coach us in the Detroit whatever bowl.
Quick Lanes.
Quick Lanes bowl.
I thought it was like a bowl.
Is that a bowling alley?
A Quick Lane. Maybe it's Quicken. Maybe it's like the
Quicken Loans.
Maybe it's
Quicken Loans. It'd be cool. It'd be a lot cooler if it was a bowling alley. That would fit with Detroit.
Come on, man. You might actually have to go. Don't
Hey, man, no, I'm not going to Detroit. Yeah, it's like I did with Shreveport. I think it's more of a sure thing than Odell. And if Odell loses to Florida badly, man, I just don't know how. I don't know how you make that. I don't know how you make that higher. I just don't. I hate to put it all the eggs in the Florida basket, but if you go out and lose to Florida just like Willie Taggart had gone out and lost to Florida by 40 points, I don't know how you sell your fan base that this is the guy that's taking us in the new direction.
Quick Lane Bowl, sponsored by the Ford Motor Company. It's named for its auto shop brand, Quick Lane.
Oh,
so it's not a bowling alley. That'd be kind of cool.
Let's go to Walk-Ons. Let's go to the Walk-Ons Bistro Bowl again.
Yeah, I really do hope that, and listen, you can't give Matt Rule the amount of money you're going to give Bob Stoops. I think that's one thing that, as we try to wind things down, I know we're going way too long on this, but we're only going to do like 3 shows this week, so whatever. I think the one good thing this administration did do is that for whatever people know about the hunt and pursuit after Bob Stoops, and to a certain degree, Gene, what he said about, from what he heard, this is going to be one of the biggest deals in college football. There's no firm deal. There's no 6-year, $60 million. There's no 6-year, $52 million contract out there that we know that he turned down.
Right.
So no one really knows just how much they're maybe getting short sold if Florida State comes after them, be like, hey, didn't you want Bob Stoops? We heard you're going to offer Bob Stoops this. They might come around to them second, third hand, but Florida State can do plausible deniability. Like, no, that's not what we were offering him at all. That's ridiculous. I just hope that Florida State's – I hope they just recognize that there is a tier, man. There's a tier of people out there that they can get, and if they want to get those guys and get this program back on the right footing, that they probably are going to have to overspend. And then, if those guys don't – if it doesn't make sense, then, you can kind of go to your Stoops, Norvels, and then look at Odell. But I really think now they have to identify one or two guys. And I don't even know Venables. I really think like Campbell and Rule are it, man. Like – head coaches, head coaching experience, success lifting moribund nonsense to respectability, being ranked. I think one good thing about Matt Campbell here, and this is how much we've fallen, something about, I think Iowa State's the only FBS team, or maybe the only Power 5 team of the last 3 years that has not lost a game by more than 2 scores.
Okay. Can't say that about Florida State, can you?
So, I mean, while they have not won all those games, they at least have been competitive in them. They have not looked the way the Florida State looked against Notre Dame last year, Clemson 2 times, the way they looked against Florida last year, NC State last year, the way they looked against we only got blown out by Clemson this year, right? That was the only sort of
Miami.
Oh yeah, Miami too. So that's
anytime they played anybody good.
Yeah.
And Miami's not even good.
Yeah.
Good defense.
I just hope that and again, man, like I was always under the impression this school was so financially hamstrung that they would not be able to do anything shot to the moon like a Bob Stoops. But obviously they had enough stuff, they had enough juice to go after him. I just hope that some of that momentum still is sustained if they want to go after a guy like the Mats.
Yeah, but also they're not Bob Stoops. You're not offering Matt Campbell 6 years, $52 million.
Yeah, no.
All right, man. If you need that much to leave Iowa State, have fun in Ames, man. Good luck. Good luck, Cyclone. You can be a Cyclone for life and win 62% of your games. Maybe they'll build a statue of you. but maybe you win the Big 12 South or North, whichever Big 12 division you're in, but you're never winning anything of consequence at Iowa State. So you can't get into those. You can't. And I was talking with somebody about this last week. It's like, yeah, people are going to be there. They're going to know they weren't the first choice. Like Matt Campbell might be insulted that he wasn't your first choice. Man, Bob Stoops was the first choice. Even Matt Campbell would be like, well, that makes sense. Yeah. I'm not Bob Stoops. Yeah. You're not going to offer me what you offered Bob Stoops? What? You'd be like, yeah, no, we're not. It'd be like Leonardo DiCaprio in a movie versus some no-name Broadway actor. It's like, yeah, no, you're not getting DiCaprio money.
Paul Gosselaar?
Yeah, there you go. Mark Paul Gosselaar won Leo money. It ain't happening, man. Know your role. Like, you're Matt Campbell. It's great. You're an up-and-comer, but you're not Bob Stoops. So, of course, we offered him more money to entice him to come back. He left Oklahoma. You're at Iowa State. Give me a break. We'll give you
should pay us to coach.
Yeah,
here.
Exactly right. We'll give you 6 years, $12. But we'll make your career. No, but I think that the numbers won't be the same. They shouldn't be the same. But I think going back to Odell real quick, I think that's what maybe people another reason people might be hesitant is, okay, Florida State wanted to spend all this money on Bob Stoops. They're not going to spend it. Now they want to get off on the cheap, and they're going to pay Odell because they know they don't have to pay Odell a ton. Yeah. He'll take it for a 1.5. But that's not how you run a football program. You don't run it on the cheap. I don't think Florida State would do it on the cheap. I think everything being equal, if they really can't parse between Odell, Haggins, and 4 other guys, but all the other guys are a little more expensive, but they really can't parse who's better, who's going to be better for the program, well then, yeah, I don't think you'd blame them for going with Odell. If it's cheaper by a total of $12 million over the course of 5 years, yeah, man, I don't think you'd blame them for that if you really didn't know. But if you turn down a good coach because he costs a little bit too much and you're going to go with your plan X or plan, J and go with Odell because he's cheaper, that would be a real problem for Florida State fans. And you can't have that perception out there. And I think that might be a perception if they hired Odell. Right. I'm not necessarily saying there's validity to it, but I think there might be a perception that, they just went with Odell because he's cheap.
It's
cheaper.
It's hard. I really want to wanted to get into that sort of conversation. Like if Matt Rule is going to cost you on average, let's say with his buyout, like an annual average of $7.5 million for the next 5 years, but you can hire Odell for $4 million. Like, is it worth it to hire Odell? Like, is that $3.5 million savings worth it year over year?
I mean, again, I think
it's not my money. And again, like I'm really happy. And happy is a stupid word, but just the fact that Florida State stepped up to go after Bob Stoops and obviously put together a compensation package to try to entice him just shows you how serious. Not that people really – there were doubts. I mean, people did probably have doubts about just how much money this program would be willing to sink into a head football coach. And, man, they went after it. So it's – hopefully they go after one of these guys. I think you got to swing a big stick at these guys, man. The Mets.
It reminds me of the draft. Like I was talking with some friends about the Bucks and what are they going to do? If they finish 2-14, are they going to draft a quarterback? Yeah. And because apparently their quarterback isn't the quarterback. We can make excuses all we want for the O-line play, for this and that. Man, he just straight is a turnover machine, and he doesn't win. And we're 5 years in now. So
can you believe that? He's been
5 years in, right? 5 or 6 years, right? 14 was his first year. So
no,
this
15.
is a
15.
Yeah, 15. So 5 years in. So the question you have to ask yourself is, like one of these teams, like say if the Falcons finish, apparently the Falcons aren't going to lose again. They're incredible. But if they finish 7-9 and they really for whatever reason want to go get a quarterback, are any of these guys coming out worth trading your future away, or like trading 2 picks and a great player to go get Tua or to go get Burrow? You got to be darn sure when you're drafting these quarterbacks that high. You just have to be. And when it comes to a coach, are any of these guys sure things where you would be willing to risk? Like there's a chance you could say, Odell, just get us back to respectability. And in 2 years, when Venable's kid is done at Clemson, we're going to get him. You're our coach, and he's our coach in waiting. You're our coach for the time being. Whatever you have to be, is Matt Rule worth? Is he your Jameis Winston? Is he your Peyton Manning? Is he your Ryan Leaf? Like that's this next decision. You're going to spend a lot of money and a lot of time, or you're going to be investing a ton in this next coach. You better make sure he's the guy, because you see how these things cripple NFL franchises for a decade if they make the wrong decision at quarterback. They can, and you bet it could cripple you a college football program too if you invest that much money in a bad coach.
Well, the Dolphins not going after Drew Brees. Nick Saban not going after Drew Brees.
Yeah, he got Culpepper. Imagine how different the world would be if the Dolphins had signed Drew Brees.
Getting that DeLorean.
Well, yeah, I mean, what would Alabama be? Saban's definitely not at Alabama if he had signed Drew Brees. So you wonder how the Crimson Tide would be doing right now.
I just think like a guy like Matt Rule, I find it hard to imagine he doesn't get this thing back to kind of like a Jimbo-esque post-Jameis thing. Like they're going to win 10 games and probably beat their rivals.
Yeah, you think, right?
And I'm fine with that. I was always fine with that. I know it's Florida State. We compete for national titles, but also, man, like I just want to win 10 games, go to a nice bowl game, and beat Florida and Miami.
Yeah, it's impressive what he's done there. It really is. But again, it's just like quarterbacks in the NFL. It's no sure thing. I thought Jameis was about as close to a sure thing as you'd get.
Absolutely.
Not even being like, I didn't think he was going to be Peyton Manning necessarily or Drew Brees, but I thought he was going to be a legitimate 10-6, 11-5, all-pro type quarterback for a decade.
Hasn't even sniffed the playoffs once.
Yeah, he won. I think he's had one winning season, maybe. And this year they're a debacle again.
I don't even think they've had a winning season.
And maybe 8-8. I thought they went 9-7 one year. But you just don't know. And you don't know with any of these guys. None of these guys are sure things. What the administration has to do is figure out what's the most certain probability of the possibilities, who has the best chance of succeeding.
You're right. My bad. Jameis went 9-7 in 16.
There you go. Didn't get him to the playoffs.
He kept building though. He went 2 wins. No, they got 2 wins, which got him the first pick. He went 6 in year 1, 9 in year 2, 5 in year 3. I don't know what they did in 18. I don't have 18 in front of me.
Yeah, and then this year they're
who cares?
They're going to be a top 5.
20 they went 5-11. So yeah, 5-11.
So both those teams actually that year they both thought, the Titans and the Bucs thought they were getting surefire, can't miss guys, and they were both wrong. And I think that's, Matt Rule isn't a can't miss. Matt Campbell isn't a can't miss. Odell Haggins isn't a can't miss. Who's the one that has the best probability of making contact?
What about Matt Rule is a can't? What could you miss on? I mean, you don't think he would win? You don't think they cruise and win 10 games in this conference with him as their coach by year 3?
No, because you look at what Baylor did this year, and again, it's very impressive. But they won 3 games in like overtime. Any of those games could have gone either way. And right now, instead of them being 8-1, they'd be 4-5, and then you wouldn't be talking about Matt Rule. Like, I would hate for Kansas State not being able to convert a third down in overtime to be the reason Florida State took a head coach. They barely beat TCU. I don't think they played Kansas State.
TCU.
They beat TCU in overtime. I think somebody missed
triple overtime.
I think somebody missed a field goal, or they made a field goal to beat someone. Maybe that was Kansas State. They've had nice wins. I'm not, and they were in those games, but there's like 4 of those games that could have gone either way. And if they'd all gone the wrong way, he'd be looking at a 500 season right now. And maybe he doesn't seem like such a sure thing. So let's not let like 4 or 5 plays in the course of a season tell us that one guy is an automatic grade hire. We really don't know. From what we've seen, it's not a coincidence though. Temple, you said 2 10-win seasons at Temple?
Back to back.
What he's done at Baylor, the fact they're probably going to win 10 games at Baylor this year, that's not a coincidence. I don't think. But it's also not a guarantee. That's all I'm saying. I mean, just again, you could just run down the list of coaches that you thought were going to be really good. Jim Donnan won national championships at Marshall. You're like, dang right, he's going to come to Athens. He's going to bring that to Athens, and they're going to be great. And he was done in 4 or 5 years. I don't know. Gus Malzahn was coaching in a national championship game.
First year.
Did he win one? No, he didn't win one. He was the OC for a national championship team, and then he was coaching in one in his very first year, and now they want him gone. So,
they had a bye week to prepare for the Deep South's oldest rivalry, and their offense was horrible for 3 quarters.
Their offense hasn't been good for a good long while. Yeah. So, I just, and it's Florida State, man. You can win at Baylor. That doesn't mean, weirdly, it should mean that if you can win at Baylor, you can win at Florida State. Obviously.
Isn't that what Sinatra said? If you can win in Waco,
if you can win in Waco,
you can make it
anywhere. But again, you're recruiting against different. I don't think he's recruiting against Texas and Oklahoma a lot.
Right.
At Florida State, you got to beat Florida and Alabama and Clemson. If you're gonna get to where you want to go, which is championship games, you've got to beat out Alabama, Auburn, Florida, and Clemson and Georgia for recruits. Can he do that? Has he ever shown a propensity to recruit against those guys and win?
I think Charlie Brewer's from Austin. Their quarterback. I think he's Texas.
Apparently Texas wasn't in on him, right? Why would he have gone to Baylor?
Well, their fault.
Exactly right.
He saw it. He picked them.
Hey, he blew it, though. Great job, Charlie Brewer. Wait, Jalen Hurts is still in our lives. I'm not voting for him for the Heisman, by the way, folks.
You still have your Heisman vote, right?
Oh, yeah. It's going to be right. I'm not supposed to say this.
Don't say it.
I'm not going to say names.
Okay.
It's going to be a quarterback from the SEC West. It's going to be a defensive end somewhere in the Big Ten.
Okay.
And then I don't know who the third one will be.
All right. Okay. Very well.
What do you think about Tua, by the way? You upset that Nick was playing him up 35-7?
No, no, not at all.
See my tweet on Sunday? You probably didn't. About that in the NFL.
Oh, yeah, about Deshaun Watson still being in the game. They always keep
They do that all
in.
the time.
Yeah, keep him in the game
Deshaun
still.
Watson, Lamar Jackson was still in the game.
Yeah, good. He's on my fantasy team.
Fourth quarter, 9 minutes to go. Deshaun Watson is still in the game with his team down 34-0. And then people are giving Saban grief for still having Tua in the game in the second quarter against an SEC team.
If you saw his halftime interview hit that he did, it was the look of on the face of a coach of, listen, the only way this team gets into the playoff is if we beat the hell out of everybody from here on out. And the only way that happens is if we keep this damn kid out there upright. And, yeah, he might get hurt, and you know what he just did? I'm not sorry about it. I got to go to the locker room.
Yeah, it's football, man. Sometimes it's like Derwin. Derwin got hurt. Who were they playing that game? It was the second game of the season. Was it Chattanooga or somebody? Where he got hurt.
I want to say Charleston Southern, but
maybe.
Did we play Charleston
but
Southern?
they weren't even playing well. Yeah. Jimbo wanted to play. And Jimbo even said it afterwards. Now maybe it was him saying that after I asked him, but I legitimately think Derwin was the first team defense was going to play one drive in the second half, get off the field, feel good about themselves, and be done. And Derwin happened to get hurt, and then everybody's like, "Why is he on the field?"
Right. Because
they're up and it's Charleston Southern, which I get, but man, it's football. I mean, things happen. Then why practice? Why walk to class? There's always a chance you're going to get hurt. And in the second quarter with 3 minutes left, there's no reason to have your starting quarterback sitting out.
Yeah, it was Charleston Southern. 52-8 was the final.
Probably could have used Derwin later on that season.
Against Louisville, maybe, next week. Yeah, that was what a far cry 16 was, man. Remember how angry we all were at 16?
Well, it was most of the anger was directed at Charles Kelly.
Yeah.
But, oh, man, he used to put together some defenses. Compared to what we're seeing now, holy moly. His guys would get after that quarterback. They wouldn't give up third and long.
Enjoy this podcast. It's like an hour and a half. It's a really long one.
Is it really? Is it really an hour and a half?
It's been long. Yeah, look at your clock.
Oh,
all right, we're going to take tomorrow off. Again, we'll do a show for Wednesday.
Hey, by the way, real quick,
Thursday.
Congrats to the FSU soccer team.
Yeah, they won 2-0 over South Alabama.
Beat South Alabama, advanced to the second round where they'll play Brown, which is
a color?
Yeah, they're just going to play a color, which is really weird because it's abstract.
Okay.
You don't know who you're playing. How many players make up Brown? Odd that is Brown Ivy League?
Yeah.
That's crazy. An Ivy League team is in the second round of the NCAA.
What's weird to me is that it's a 64-team tournament, but there was like a week off between round 1 and round 2.
Yeah, and then I think another week off between 2 and 3, and then 3 and 4 like back to back.
I think actually it's back to back this coming.
Yeah. So 2 and 3 is okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, Florida State's the number 1 seed, so they'll play all the way at home if they keep winning until they get to
There's a pretty good turnout. We were walking by the soccerplex.
It was good that they had it after the football game.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if they keep winning, they'll play at home until the College Cup, which is the soccer version of the Final Four, which will be in San Jose, California.
What about this basketball team? Friday night. You spent your Friday night watching them play.
I did. Not very impressive. Patrick Williams was impressive.
What was more impressive, the way that Patrick Williams closed the game out or MJ Walker?
Patrick Williams, because we know it. When MJ gets hot, he's just going to make shots. He's a really I don't even want to say a streaky shooter. He's a good shooter, and he happened to make 5 or 6 in the second half that were just big shots. But we've seen that before. It doesn't come as often as we'd like from MJ Walker, but it comes. We've seen it. Miami last year and other games. But Patrick Williams had never done anything like that before. And he scored when they were down from the 3 or 4 minute mark until the final minute, until really the final 10 seconds, he scored all of Florida. He scored 9 straight points for Florida State. Had an and one, made some really clutch free throws. I thought that was the most impressive thing. That guy, he has a chance to be a nice player on both ends of the court.
Who do they got on Tuesday?
I think it's Wednesday, and I think it's St. Francis.
Okay.
St. Francis of Pennsylvania, not to be confused with St. Francis of ZZ.
Maybe. Yeah, so we'll be back on Wednesday because Tuesday we'll actually get to speak to everybody.
The whole crew.
Coordinators.
Kendall,
yeah.
I'm going to ask Kendall what the heck was up with the Miami game plan. I know you played some games since. Head coach has been fired, but what were you doing in the Miami game, man?
He's Corey. I'm Maslon. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's.